least older than 10 to 12,000 years. But the next question would be, who was able to make such a wonderful world map?
The Piri-Reis map definitely shows the northern coastline of Antarctica, of the Antarctic Peninsula, and perhaps the greatest mystery of all is that it shows the Antarctic Peninsula not as it looks today, covered by more than a mile of ice, but as it actually looks underneath that covering of ice. Now, we ourselves have only known what the land under the Antarctic Peninsula really looks like since 1958, when seismic surveys were taken across the ice cap. The mystery of this map is it shows Antarctica as it looks under the ice long before Antarctica is even supposed to have been discovered, and the Piri-Reis map isn't alone. It's one of a category of maps that focus on Antarctica. The famous geographer Mercator in the 16th century provided us with an accurate map of Antarctica 300 years before Antarctica was discovered, and he too said that his information was based on earlier sources. Orontius Phineas provided a map of Antarctica showing mountains along the coast, with rivers running down from those mountains into the sea in places where huge glaciers stand today. And perhaps the most amazing map of all was drawn by Philippe Bouache, a French cartographer in the 18th century, again based on earlier source maps, which gives us an almost perfect rendering of the whole continent of Antarctica as it actually looks underneath the ice. Now, in this there lies a great, great mystery.
On the left side down, different sides of a huge stone world map. This stone world map was found in 1984 while gold digging in Ecuador in an underground tunnel system with other 350 artifacts which do not really fit any known and existing South American pre-Columbian culture. On this stone map is a natural quartz line, a white one, and this is the front side of the world stone map, and you can see approximately in the Near East, close to Saudi Arabia, you can see an inlay as an eye, and from this eye to the right and to the left is a natural quartz line going on the right side over India, Thailand, and also there is a long island on the right side, which Professor Kimura's research gave him the statement that from the northeast Japanese island until far down after Taiwan, once there existed a huge continent. But then this world map must be older than at least 10 to 12,000 years.
The implications of these maps are truly enormous. We're faced with one of two propositions. Geologists tell us that Antarctica has been covered with ice for at least 3 million years. This is the orthodox geological opinion. In that case, we're obliged to accept that Antarctica was mapped accurately more than 3 million years ago, when we ourselves, as a species, are not even supposed to have existed on this planet. Alternatively, there's a possibility that the geologists are wrong. They've been wrong before, and it's possible that they're wrong about this. There's a growing body of extremely persuasive evidence which suggests that Antarctica may not have been covered with ice, and certainly not completely covered with ice, until 10 or 12,000 years ago, just a blink of the eye in terms of geological time, and well within the time span of human beings, just like ourselves. Let me tell you a little story that will help to shed light on this. Back in 1916, a geologist called Alfred Wegener proposed what was at the time considered to be an outrageous geological hypothesis. He said that it looked to him like the continents floated around on the surface of the Earth over very long periods of time. It looked like West Africa and the east coast of South America fitted together like a kind of jigsaw puzzle. He proposed the theory of continental drift. Wegener was completely ridiculed by his colleagues in 1916. He was regarded and described as a madman. By 1960, the theory of continental drift was being taught as orthodox geology in all our schools. I tell you this story to illustrate that geology is about theories, and theories change in time. And sometimes what seem like outrageous theories get supported by later evidence. In 1953, another outrageous geological theory was proposed. It was proposed by a man called Charles Hapgood, a professor in America, and he suggested a very intriguing possibility, which is that the entire outer crust of the Earth, you know, we live on an 8,000-mile thick planet, and the crust, the hard crust of the Earth on which we all live, is only 30 miles thick. According to Hapgood's theory, this crust of the Earth can sometimes slip in one piece around the core of the Earth, rather like the loose skin of an orange moving around the fruit at the center of the orange. Now, interestingly enough, Hapgood's theory received an extremely strong endorsement at the time from one of the greatest minds of our century, Albert Einstein, who liked the physics of the theory. And I think if Einstein had lived, that we might have seen the theory of Earth crust displacement much more mainstream today than it actually is. But this theory explains how and why Antarctica could have been ice-free as recently as 12 or 15,000 years ago, quite simply because at that time the Antarctic continent was not positioned dead center within the Antarctic Circle, as it is today, but was positioned further north, about 2,000 miles further north, according to Hapgood's and Einstein's evidence, and that a massive one-piece displacement of the crust of the Earth forced that continent southwards, dead center, into the Antarctic Circle, and it was only then that the 2-mile and 1-mile thick ice cover that cover various parts of it today actually began to build up.
And here's the backside, and you can see on the right side coming the quartz line passing in the Atlantic, a continent, Atlantis, which in our days does not exist anymore.
It's just possible that as recently as 12 or 15,000 years ago, Antarctica wasn't covered by ice as it is today. The evidence is mounting to suggest that Antarctica hasn't always been where it is today.